Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Welcome to the masterclass, Building Your Brand Equity. Today, we have a very special guest, Ms. Claudine Moore, who is going to be teaching you guys some tips on how to build your brand equity as entrepreneurs. Brand is very important when you're going out as a business. You need to be able to tell your story. You need to be able to leverage on your story to build and scale your business. I would like to now introduce Claudine Moore from Seymour Media, based in New York, and she will be providing you guys with more information on building your brand equity. Welcome. Please give her a round of applause.
Okay, everybody. Good afternoon. Good. How are you guys all feeling this afternoon? You're here from all across Africa. Are you making friends? Are you talking to people? Are you talking about your organizations and what you're trying to build? So you're talking about your brands already. So you don't need the class? You still need the class. Okay. So thank you, Alexandria, for that very kind introduction on the US, Africa, specializing in mainly West Africa, and UK markets. It's a distinct pleasure of mine to be standing here in front of you. For a very special reason, I have always wanted to travel and visit the continent. My family, we're originally we're Africans, of course, but my family, immediate family, are from the Caribbean. And Jamaica and Barbados. Have you guys heard of those places? Yeah, good. Okay, good. Yeah, music, that's the first thing they say. And runners. We have good runners. So, and from when I was a young child, I always wanted to visit and work in Africa. I didn't care where in Africa, I just wanted to visit and work in Africa. And where I grew up, I didn't ever meet anybody that really looked like me as I was growing up. So when I was about 12 or 13, I put an advert in a magazine. This is, obviously I'm showing my age because now we don't put adverts in magazines. But I put an advert in a magazine, a music magazine, and I wanted pen pals. Does anybody here know what a pen pal is? Okay, good. Good, so we're all old people in this room. So I put an advert in a magazine for pen pals, and I just wanted a pen pal from anywhere in Africa, any country in Africa. And interestingly enough, I got all my responses from 2 countries in Africa. I got my responses from Zimbabwe. Anyone here from Zimbabwe? Okay. And I got responses from Swaziland. Anyone here from Swaziland? Is everyone in here Nigerian? Okay. And then I also got responses from Botswana. Anybody here from Botswana? No. Pals from Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Swaziland. And I got so many pen friends, like I got so many letters that I couldn't write to everybody. So I took letters to school and started giving them out to my friends at school. I'm like, look, I've got all these people writing to me from these countries in Southern Africa, and I gave them out. And I wrote to those pen pals of mine, I kept about 5 of them for about 10 years. We kept on writing back and forth. And I learned so much in those letters from them. They learned so much from me. We became great friends over the years. And I tell you that story to share with you how much of a distinct pleasure it is for me to stand here in front of you. Because I've dedicated my career to working in the Africa space. Whilst I work internationally, my passion is African development. And I love to share my knowledge and insights with African audiences. So I want to thank all of you for signing up for this class. I know there was a bit of a rush to get in, but that's always a compliment. But I know there are plenty of sessions happening right now, and I want to thank you all for signing up for this class. And I want you to remember the story I just now told you as we go through this presentation. So this presentation is building brand equity and leveraging the power of storytelling. And what does branding mean? Okay, so look at this slide. This is the power of branding right here. Right here, what do we see? We see 2 cups. One of them is blank, doesn't have just a plain white cup. And one of them has a very famous logo on it. And as you can see, the value of this item has increased 3 times by simply having a logo on it. And that's not just because the logo is a pretty logo. It's because that logo is offering that logo presents a certain perception, and it also is offering a certain promise. When you are drinking these 2 cups, see these 2 cups of coffee, I'm sure the majority of you in this room would choose the one with the Starbucks logo on it. Because, isn't that right? Why would you do that? What did you say? It has an identity. Anybody else? You're sure. Okay, this is a great answer here, because you're sure. What he's saying there is he trusts that logo. And that's very important, because branding is also about trust. And when somebody trusts your brand, they're willing to pay a premium for that brand. Sorry, that's just reminded me. A quick housekeeping tip. Not tip, I want to say a demand. A very polite demand. If everybody could make sure that their phones are on silent, please, so there are no more interruptions. Okay, now a lot of people, when you think about branding, they just think that branding's a logo or a color. And so these are the things that branding is not. Branding is not just a positioning statement. Branding is a lot more than that. Branding is not just a cool name. All a name is a way of identifying something or someone or a product. Branding is not just a logo. Now, I'm not saying these things are not branding, but what's the key word I'm saying here? Branding is more than these items. It's more than a cool name. It's more than a logo. It's more than a catchy tagline. Like when I say, let's do what something simply looks like on a website, on a t-shirt, on a bag. So these things are branding, but you should all really understand branding is a lot more than this. It's much more. So, branding is a great product or service backed by consistent brand marketing, public relations, and communications. It's the way you communicate about your brand that leads to the perception and reputation of your brand. It's not just the logo. So, for example, this gentleman at the front, he said he would choose the cup of coffee that had the Starbucks logo on it because he's sure of what he's getting. He's not sure of what he's getting simply because of the green logo. He's sure of what he's getting because of the way Starbucks has spoken about their brand. He's sure of it. They've promised him a good cup of coffee, albeit an expensive one. So when you're building a strong brand, this requires strategic planning, strategic long-term planning. You have to be committed to invest in providing value and keeping your brand promise. So you have to, if you're going to present a certain brand offer, a value proposition, and by value proposition I mean you're going to be presenting a certain product or service. All of you are here and have been literally handpicked by chairman because you've all offered him a value product, a value service. He's seen value in what you do. So you're providing value, and you have to keep, you're providing value, and in providing value, you have to keep to that brand promise. Starbucks has to keep to their promise of having good coffee. The minute they start having bad coffee, they've relapsed on their brand promise, and you're no longer sure. So what is brand promise? Elumelu Foundation is one of your audiences. You had to present yourselves to the foundation in order for you to be sitting here this afternoon. Your partners, as you go into the world and you build your business, you're going to have partners. They're also your audience. And so you have to offer, what your brand promise is, you have to offer this at every single touch point. You have to offer this internally and externally. As you begin to grow and you have people who work for you, your brand promise has to be something that you show internally and externally. It's in your product, the point of difference and perceived value. You all have to be offering a perceived difference in the products and businesses that you're building in order for you to have value. There's no point in building or creating something that already exists. There's just no point in doing that for obvious reasons. What is branding? The activities the brand engages in to reinforce its unique offering and value in the mind of the customer. So, you have to, at every point, be offering value. It has to be seen as value in the mind of your customer and your audience. And then brand equity. Brand equity is the perceived value of a company or product based on its reputation amongst customers and consumers. Reputation is everything. And you should do everything you can to protect your reputation. If you have no personal reputation, you almost have nothing. And that goes the same with the business. If your business has a poor reputation in any capacity, it's not going to help you build your business. So brand equity is really based on its reputation among customers and consumers. And that's why this presentation is about, and this masterclass is about building your brand equity. It's about building your reputation. And that's really important, especially when you are just starting out and you're a small entity, you're a small company, and you're just starting out. Your reputation is almost like the only thing you have to get investors, partners, vendors, and audiences, customers, your actual unique customers, to come and want to work with you and buy from you. So your reputation is key. I can't stress that enough. That's why it's in pink. Okay. So, what are some of the elements of brand?
Éléments qui constituent donc l'équité du marquage. Je l'ai dit au préalable, la différenciation et le point de vente unique. Vous devez être unique. Vous devez offrir quelque chose.
Able to communicate your point of difference. And you have to be different from your competitors. Value. To build positive equity, you need to believe that it adds enough value to be worth the cost or investment. You have to be offering enough value to your investors and enough value to your customers or your end users in order for them to think that they're worth, or that their money is worth parting and giving their money to you. You each, all of you here, the entrepreneurs that are here today, you each presented value to the Tony Elumelu Foundation, and that's why all of you are here. And always remember that, because you've all started off with a huge endorsement from a foundation that is invested in you already. And that should make you feel really confident, because you already know that each and every one of you here is already offering value, and you're already offering a unique selling point. Negative experience. Negative experiences can have a significant repercussion on brand equity, just as a positive experience can have a positive impact on brand equity. I'm sure we've all been to that restaurant before where we didn't like the food that we were given, and we told the waiter, and the waiter was really nice about it and took the food back and was very pleasant about it. And then conversely, you've gone to a restaurant when you've complained about your meal, or you didn't like your food, they brought the wrong food, and the restaurant responded really negatively. Has anybody had that happen to them? Yeah. And how do you feel about, when you leave the restaurant, how do you feel? This gentleman's really shaking his head. Sorry, you're saying? You will never go back there. And you will tell your friends, don't go there. And conversely, if you had a good experience, you would tell people, they brought the wrong meal out for me, but they were so nice and really great about taking it back. It's the same incident happened, you just responded differently. And the response has created a perception in our minds. And perception is very, very powerful. Now, while these points, we're going, look, all this, we're going all the way through the presentation. Hang on a second, sorry. What's happening with the... Can you all close your eyes, because you're not meant to be seeing this yet. Can we just go back? It's paused. Can you have a look at that? It needs to go back. Maybe just disconnect it and we'll start again. Yeah, keep on going. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay. So whilst those other elements, the point of difference, the value and negative experience, those are all a part of branding. The next 3 points are really the crucial parts of branding. And I always make recommendations and I always suggest, when you think of branding, to make it easy to understand, think about yourself as a person, as a human being. Brand recognition, what does that mean? Okay, well, how do you recognize each and every one of us? We have a name. People know us by our name. They know us by sight. So when you mention a brand like Google, Microsoft, Tony Elumelu Foundation, you instantly recognize those names. These brands have become household names, and therefore they carry significant brand equity. So they're a name that you know. You know because maybe you've seen it on television, you've seen it on magazines, in Google. I'm sure all of us use Google every day. So these are brands that you've seen that you know. That's part of brand equity. That's brand recognition, literally recognizing the brand. Brand integrity. Brand integrity is the same as our own personal integrity. Our own personal integrity is one of the strongest and most sacred characteristics we can have. Integrity means you'll mean what you'll say, and you'll say what you mean. And that's the same with the brand. The extent to which a brand is perceived to meet the performance, quality, or level of service it promises and customers expect. So if you expect a good pair of sneakers from Nike, you're spending $200-300 on a pair of sneakers, you're expecting a good pair of sneakers. You're not expecting those sneakers in a few weeks or months to fall apart. That's the integrity of the brand, that they are saying you're going to get a good pair of sneakers that are going to help you with your performance. That's what you're expecting. So can you let me know, so you lady at the front here, what kind of business do you have? Fashion and design. And what makes your fashion and design business different to another fashion and design business?
I do actually want to fit in perfume.
Oh,
Customize not for everyone. But that's what I actually want to make that.
okay, so there'll be some sort of perfume within the fabric.
After making the fabric, then I'll kind of construct it with the perfume. Then
Wow. So did everybody hear what this thank you. Did everyone hear what this young lady said? So I'll repeat that this is actually a great example. I'm glad I chose you, thank you. This young lady at the front said she's into fashion and design, and she's designing a fashion brand that has actually perfume in the clothes, in the actual clothing. So I guess it's like a clothing and fabric and an item all in one, so you don't need perfume. Am I right in saying that? Would you still wear perfume on?
I'm actually going to construct, going to partner with someone that makes perfume. Then, because the brand, I'm still on the idea stage, and we've not actually got to the extent of making a fabrics on ours.
Okay.
I'm going to partner with someone that is into perfume.
Okay.
I'll know if spraying it on before packaging will be the best.
Okay.
Or spraying it before making it.
Understood. This is a great example. Okay, I'm really glad I chose you. So this young lady is developing a product where the perfume is combined with the fabric that she's using to make the clothes. That is what she's doing. That's her unique selling point, because I'm sure none of us have heard of that before. And that's a value she's offering, and that's her brand integrity is, if she's offering a certain scent in the clothes, then when those clothes arrive, they need to have a scent. If they don't, then you open it, you're like, well, what is this? This brand is promising us a certain scent with the clothing, and there's no scent with the clothing. Emotional connection. Now, this is really important, and from my perspective, having emotional connection is the most important part of brand equity. And so what's an emotional connection? I'm sure all of us, we've met people, and there's a very famous saying that You don't remember what people say. You don't necessarily remember conversations, but you do remember how people make you feel, right? So there's sometimes you might see somebody and you might recognize them, but you're like, I recognize them, but I don't get a good feeling. I remember not having a good feeling from them. I don't know the conversation, but it wasn't a good feeling. That is the same as an emotional connection when it comes to the brand. Consumers must understand and believe in the brand in order to build brand equity. And brand storytelling is a powerful strategy to create an emotional connection. A great example of a good emotional connection is a brand like McDonald's. McDonald's is a brand that when you're a child, some children, certainly in Western markets, you see McDonald's, and it's a brand that you get excited about because they have kids' toys and Happy Meals. So you grow up from a child wanting McDonald's and having a good feeling when you think of McDonald's, despite the fact that it's fast food and it's not particularly good for you. That's information you have as an adult. But as a child, you associate McDonald's with Ronald McDonald, you associate McDonald's with McDonald's playground, you associate it with the toy, the free toy that you get with the meals. These are all really good connections, and they do that on purpose because as a child, you're now getting an emotional connection to the brand that you will take with you as you grow into an adult because they connected with you on an emotional level that was a very happy emotion as a child. And even though as an adult you'll know that the food that they're serving isn't very good food, you'll always still have a very, like, the emotions you solicit from a brand like McDonald's is always very happy ones. And that's an emotional connection. And this is key. And the best way to create that emotional connection is through brand storytelling. So I want everyone to have a close look at this image, this diagram. Increased integrity equals increased brand equity. So at the very base level here, you have category expectations. If you're creating, if you're in the fashion and design space and you're creating clothes, your category expectation is that you're going to buy an item of clothing and you're going to be able to wear it and it's going to fit, it's going to be reasonable quality, depending on the price and how, if it's a high premium or a mass market product. But your basic expectation is that you're buying an item of clothing from this fashion and design brand and that you can wear it. Okay, that's basic brand integrity. You're selling a dress, I can wear the dress. Brand promise. Taking this young lady's business as an example. So her brand promise is that there'll be a certain scent in the item of clothing. So then you've gone beyond just the category expectations. Now you want to see if the brand is delivering on their promise. And she's promising that there's going to be a scent with this clothing. So that's the next level. And if she delivers on that promise, then you can see here, can you see this arrow is going up? This is basic brand integrity. Again, category expectations. Then you go up to brand promises. Is the brand delivering and presenting what it says it will? And then you have this here, customer relationships. And customer relationships, and remember I said, customer, your audience, your investors, your partners. Customer relationships is where you have that emotional connection. And your customer relationships, here it's customer relationships, but that could also be with the teams that you're building, as well as your external audiences. When you reach here and you're having good customer relationships, good relationships with your vendors, good relationships with your investors, this is when you're reaching the levels here of superior brand integrity. And superior brand integrity leads to what? What does this say here? Exactly, increased brand equity. So, as we've gone over that, I have some immediate action items for you because when I deliver these masterclasses, I always like to give you all a broad overview of a subject area, but I also want you to be able to leave this room and really think about applying some of the concepts and ideas to what you're actually doing. And so here are some immediate action items when it comes to building brand equity. So first of all, do a brand audit. Now, a brand audit is finding out what are the strengths of your brand, what are the weaknesses of your brand or the organization that you're trying to build or the product you're trying to build. What are its strengths? What are its weaknesses? What are the opportunities? How do you differentiate yourself to your competitors? Do a brand audit. What are the skills that you already have within your organization? Or what skills do you already own? What skills do you need to grow that you don't own that somebody's going to get into the housekeeping? Who's that? What happens when you don't do your housekeeping chores? Isn't there normally a punishment? Okay, well, if it happens again, we'll collectively think of a punishment for this person at the front. Okay. So everyone else have your phones on silent, please. Define your brand. Who are you? What is it that you're doing? How do you differentiate yourself from your competitors? What is it that you're offering? Define who you are. Build a consistent brand identity. This is what most people think it is. It's your logo. It's your tagline if you're going to have one. It's your the colors that you're using. It's the way you're presenting yourself, literally presenting your brand to the world. And interestingly, this is what most people think of branding. They think this is all branding is. And as I mentioned to you in the very first slide, branding is a lot more than this. Branding is how you communicate your brand. The way and how you communicate your brand is the most important thing, which is why I always share that storytelling is the most crucial thing that you can do in how you present your brand. Because how you communicate your brand should be consistent. It should be consistent across social media, across your branding materials, on your website, in any materials. How you communicate is key. And you should be consistent in that. And also protect your brand. I mentioned earlier how important brand reputation is. And as you go out into the world, you're all starting off your businesses small. So that means the reputation of your business is very much caught up in who all of you are. Because all of you are now, you're entrepreneurs, you're now business people. And it's always important to remember, people do business with other people. People do business with people. And we do business with people that we like, people that we trust, people that we can get on with. They call it a chemistry check. And sometimes what that chemistry check means is that you think you can work with that person. It just feels right. And as you are small businesses, your brand identity and your brand reputation is very much caught up in your reputation. So that means when somebody is deciding if they're going to invest in you or partner with you or become a customer of your new organization, one of the first things they're going to do, as they know your name is, they are going to Google you. And when they Google you, what are they going to see? Yikes. I see some of you looking a bit nervous. And that's because you have to understand that you're business people now and you're entrepreneurs, so protect your personal reputations. That doesn't mean you can't show fun pictures on your Instagram. That doesn't mean you can't say fun things. People like to do business with human beings. It's important to have a fun and human perception and image of yourself. But just be careful how you proceed in the world now you are embarking upon your entrepreneurial journey, because your personal reputations are also caught up in your business reputations, especially when you are starting out very small. So I mentioned to you earlier about this emotional connection. And when I was putting this presentation together, I could have stopped at brand equity, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper into a key part of brand equity, which is the emotional connection. And the best way to make that emotional connection is through storytelling. So I wanted to do and to present some slides to you about storytelling and why it's so important. And leveraging the power of storytelling for your brand. Why? Can anybody take a guess as to why a story is important? Why do you think I began this presentation with a story about myself and my pen pals from countries that no one comes from in this classroom? Yes. True. Excellent. You should sit at the front of the class. That was the perfect response. That was the perfect response. Did everybody hear what she said? Okay, can you stand up and say it again, please? Exactly. You all know a little bit more about me and why I am a little bit about why I'm so happy to be standing in front of you and how my desire to work in and around Africa has existed since I was a teenager. And trust me, that's decades ago at this point. So you now know a little bit more about me. And you also know that, wow, if she was thinking that when she was 12 years old, and she is now significantly older than 12, you know that that's a deep-seated passion that I've had for a long time. That's a passion I've had for I'm not even going to say how many years, then you'll all be able to work out how old I am. I nearly was like, am I going to say how many decades? And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to say how many decades. But it's many decades, I will say that. But you know now, and when somebody has a passion that lasts decades, then you know that it's genuine. And you know that it's something that they really want to do. So when I said that story at the beginning to let you know, that is how happy I am to be here. I'm happy to be in Nigeria. I'm happy to be sharing this information with you. I'm happy to be working in the African development space. And it's been, you know that now because it's a story that I've told you. And while there are many things from this presentation that you will maybe forget, one of the things you'll remember about this presentation is the story about me and my pen pals. Does anybody remember the countries that they said they came from? Okay, which countries were they from? Okay. Okay. So exactly. So you all remembered that. Can all of you remember what was on slide 4? Exactly what was on slide 4? Oh, you can? No. Can any of you remember exactly what was on slide 4? No. But you get my point. You remember the story that I told. So stories are very, very important. Now, there are certain storytelling formulas. And one of the formulas for storytelling is you have a character. And you need a character in a story. And that character in the story has a goal. This is a basic storytelling formula. That character has a goal. And when they have a goal, in the pursuit of that goal, they come across challenges and obstacles that they have to overcome. Now, none of us would go to the movies and watch films and watch stories if there were no challenges. Because challenges and seeing how the characters in the story overcome their challenges and pursue their goals, that's what makes it interesting. So you have to look at storytelling, brand storytelling, as your brand is the character. And you have to think about you as entrepreneurs are also characters in your entrepreneurial journey. Brand storytelling. Now, your corporate or brand story can be incorporated into all forms of content. Sometimes people ask the question, well, how do I begin to tell my brand story? Where do I include it? You can begin your brand story at any touch point. You can talk about and create and present a brand story. So if you have, and I've given you some very quick examples here, if you have the About Us section or Who We Are section on your website, in that section or on that section, you can create a story. You don't have to say, I am a fashion brand and we do X, Y, and Z. No, you can begin by saying, I've always loved fashion, and I've always loved, in this young lady's case, I've always loved perfume because, and you give a reason why you've loved fashion and a reason why you've loved perfume and how that morphed into you wanting to develop a fashion brand that incorporated fashion, and perfume. I want one of these dresses, by the way. So we'll talk about that afterwards. So you so you don't have to present it in a way that's very sterile. You can present a story in the About Us section. Also, when you have a section where you may have, as the founder, you're talking about your business. Have a story in the founder section. You don't have to just say, my name is Claudine Moore and I am from X place. Present a story because people remember stories. And when you're microblogging, and by microblogging, what that really means is when you're presenting a social media post, either over Instagram or over Twitter or Facebook, that's also an opportunity to present a story. Obviously, with something like Twitter, you only have 240 characters. They now have the thread on Twitter, so you can create a story. But storytelling is so important. That's why even with Twitter, they created a thread on Twitter. I'm sure we've all seen these threads on Twitter. Yeah. And they created a thread on Twitter because they know, because don't forget, Twitter started out with 140 characters. That was it. And people had so much to say. So then that morphed into 240 characters. People still had a lot to say. So they created the thread because of the notion of storytelling. A brand story has a strategic purpose aimed towards drawing your audience in. And that's really what you want to do. By drawing your audiences in, that makes them want to buy your products, that makes them want to work with you, that makes them want to invest in you, that makes them want to partner with you. Now, here are some storytelling tips, and I've been told we've only got 10 minutes left. I don't know where the time goes, but that's what we have. Okay. So to begin your brand story, answer the following questions. Who is telling the story? Now, remember I had a slide earlier where I mentioned the brand is the character in the story. So the brand can be telling the story. Or maybe you are telling the story. Or maybe you're getting one of your investors to tell the story. But think about who is telling the story. Why is the story being told? Don't just tell a story for the sake of it. If you want to tell a story, think about why you're telling this story. What do you want the person reading about this story to take away from this story? And when and where is the story taking place? And what is the goal of the story? So part of your story is the Tony Elumelu Foundation. And you will carry that through your entire entrepreneurial journey. And as you carry the Tony Elumelu Foundation through your entrepreneurial journey, you're going to remember certain things. So I'm sure the moment that all of you got your notifications that you had been selected, how did you feel? I mean, how did you feel when you were selected? Can you tell me, how did you feel when you were selected? Wow. Yeah, you were excited. And you felt special.